All right, moving on. You Don't Know What Discipline Means by Dr. K.
Oh my God, I hate brushing my teeth at night. Until you do it for a while, then it becomes a habit, then it's not a problem. But make no mistake that disciplining happens as an action in the mind. It's not something that you get. We can decay our discipline so quickly by not disciplining ourselves.
It's called stagnation. Nothing so unnatural as inaction. I think that's the thing, right? I feel like I got that from somewhere. That's a saying.
Work out for 6 months, you're doing great, you fall off the wagon once, and then you stop disciplining yourself, right? So like we wonder, like, why do I wake up every day and I don't do my work? It's because you don't treat yourself with respect. You spoil yourself. I hate who I'm becoming. How do I rebuild self?
All right. Now I have to do this. Thank you so much, Dr. K. That's needs to be right. Huh? Am I right? No. Hopefully he doesn't switch to the other side.
Self-discipline and self-respect. I'm 23 years old. I've never had a girlfriend. I still live with my parents. I'm currently...
You know, weirdly, self-respect is quite attractive in women. It's one of those things where, like, I've never had much cause to come into contact with strippers, but I don't think I would really like them. Or just women who are morally loose in general. Like, it's one of those things where, like, if a thing has very little value, if a woman doesn't value herself, like, it's hard to perceive that, maybe just from an external source, as being valuable. Like, when you don't treat yourself with respect, or you don't treat your body with respect, like, okay, sure, you know, I suppose you're human, you know, God still loves you, but yeah.
Studying at university, I normally work out 6 days a week, play trumpet in a band, have a small group of friends that I really care about, so far normal. And yet I don't feel like I'm living like a real adult right now. I have a huge exam coming up in spring and a paper that makes a big part of my final grade. I should be studying. Instead, I'm on my phone, average of 8 hours a day, YouTube, porn. On a good day, I get maybe an hour of actual work done. There's no structure to my days, no real work times. I just sit at my desk and let the day pass. When I try putting my phone away, I still end up wandering around the house, playing darts, making coffee for myself. And every so often it hits me. People my age are working in relationships, living normal lives. Meanwhile, I feel stuck in the mindset.
There's a weird type of notion that people think that every moment that they're awake, they're kind of rational and sentient and, you know, in control of themselves, which I think is sometimes the case. But I think there's also another part of this where it's only at certain times in your life that you really, like, come up for air and you kind of take a self-assessment, take, like, stock of what your life is and what you're going through. And if you don't take advantage of those, I feel like sometimes you're kind of, you go back to sleep a little bit. You kind of, yeah, you need to strike while the iron's hot, I guess.
Of an 18-year-old on summer break. It leaves me feeling useless, inferior, and honestly a bit depressed. I hate that I can't seem to break the cycle. I want to change not only for myself, but also because there's this girl I really like. There it is, chat. And I don't want to...
To be fair, there are a few things more motivating than falling in love with a woman, I imagine. Like, I think you could even just check statistically, like, as to how productive guys are before and after they get married. Yeah, I think you would see significant changes.
Waste this opportunity. Oh my God. But I know I'm not in a place for a relationship right now. How can I expect someone to love me when I don't even love myself? Man, there are two things that I want to say that are the first thing that I want to say. So I don't know which one to do. So let's start with the second one, then we'll do the first one. First thing to understand is we have this idea of discipline and self-respect. And if we look at discipline, it's a noun. And self-respect is also a noun. I have self-respect. I have discipline. I am disciplined. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people who want discipline want to have the thing. There's one thing that we don't understand. Discipline is not a noun. Self-respect is not a noun. These are both verbs. They're verbs. They're activities. And I want y'all to think about this for a second. As someone who's developing discipline, what they're actually doing is an action. There is a process of disciplining, which we understand when it comes to things like animals, right? I'm disciplining my child. I discipline you. I discipline child. I discipline dog. It is a verb. You have impulse number 1 and impulse number 2. Impulse that you should do, thing you should do, thing that you want to do. What is the verb of discipline? Discipline is the action of moving from what you want to do to what you should do. It is like literally a movement. Discipline is a...
And there's a weird type of notion, like, as to how you prioritize your inner desires. Like, the notion is that your pleasures or something like that are, generally speaking, they're not something that is as sustainable as they're not like a good that you can have and hold, right? If pleasure were sustainable, if it were functional, then it would be fine to indulge it, right? You could hold that, and you could keep that in conjunction with all of the other goods in your life. But the very fact that pleasure is so addictive, that it's this dopamine hit in your brain that is so intense, means that you will prioritize it to the exclusion of other things, and you will effectively... I think that the natural follow-on is that you end up ruining your life because you're chasing this thing that you're never going to catch, and you sacrifice everything else for the sake of this one thing that you're never going to catch. You're never going to actually get it, and you're going to have to continue to keep feeding it more and more and more, and sacrificing more and more to this idol that you're chasing, right? That's where to seek rather those more sustainable goods, the true and contentment, peace, morality, well-being, perhaps as a more sustainable type of, this is something I can have and hold. This is something I can go throughout my entire life and have this same feeling every time I come back to it. It's not something that demands everything of me in return for that same feeling. Like that would be the idea in my mind.
Cognitive movement from one place to another place. It is disciplining. And when we say someone has the trait of discipline, right, because we talk about discipline like a trait, like a personality trait, like it's something that you have. And this is the really scary thing, and this is why no one gets a discipline, because everyone thinks it's something that you get. So like, how do I get discipline? How do I have the discipline? And then I'm like, oh yeah, now that I'm disciplined, I can just be a lazy fucker. And since I have discipline, since I have the TR of discipline plus 10, I can be a lazy fucker, and then I can just do like the discipline will take over, and then I'll be disciplined.
Sorry,
and then
I'll try to get that out.
I don't have to do anything. If I'm disciplined, then I can be lazy because the discipline will take over and do everything automatically for me. But disciplining is the action that we take when we move from impulse to what we should be doing. This is how we develop discipline. But don't for a moment think that you will have ever developed discipline. That's the big...
No, and that's the notion too of like an equilibrium as opposed to like a sustainable state of existence as opposed to like an equilibrium, right? An equilibrium involves action. It's like a sustainable action that you continually do, right? I think the moment you stop trying, you kind of start stagnating. It's no longer in that category.
Big scam. We think we will have it. We think it's binary. We think once we cross the finish line, it's done. It's like a number in your bank account. That's not what discipline is. Like I've said, one of the most frustrating things about OCD is how often it gets misdiagnosed. People can spend years trying to manage anxiety, depression, or even something else entirely without realizing that underneath it all, it might actually be OCD. And because it's so misunderstood, it gets missed. Another study showed something like 50% of people with OCD get misdiagnosed at first, which means they don't get the right kind of support early on. And even when it is diagnosed, not every therapist is trained in the specific treatment that is effective for OCD, like exposure and response prevention, or ERP. But here's the real challenge. There's a shortage of OCD specialists out there. That's where our sponsor, NoCD, comes in. It's a telehealth platform that connects you with licensed therapists who are trained specifically in ERP. Our scientific advisory board spent some time digging into behaviors. It might be worth talking to someone who really knows what to look for. 155 million Americans have insurance that covers the cost of their sessions.
Sometimes I force myself to do stuff differently just for the heck of it, just to make, it's kind of one of those things where you can't almost work yourself into a groove where if you don't do it the exact same time, that 150th time, if you don't do it the exact same way, it'll like tick you off and it'll be like a brain worm where you're just like I'll sometimes literally just force myself to do it a different way a little bit, or to not do it, or to whatever, just because you almost get into this. And if the pattern's good, that's fine. Like you said, discipline, that very good thing where you do the same thing the same way every time. But if it's just something that's stupid and insipid, like, I will sometimes literally just like, nope, not going to do it.
Making it an affordable option for therapy. They even offer in-app support when you need help between sessions, so you're never alone. You can schedule a free 15-minute call with no CD using the link in the description below. So I want y'all to remember that the mind is not an object that has things. It is an activity. A thought is a fluctuation within the mind. An emotion is a fluctuation within the mind. The whole problem with motivation is that it fluctuates. The mind is a state, not an object. There's the billiard table, and then the billiard table can be...
Well, I tend to agree with that to some extent. But yeah, I do think there are like certain parts of who we are as a person that are more enduring. Like I would tend to think the conscience or the soul or the spirit or whatever, that's a more like enduring thing. The notion that we treat people the same way. The notion that I call a person Steve when they're 6. I call a person Steve when they're 12. I call a person Steve when they're 30, 50, 100, right? I call them Steve. The whole point. That means there's something in there that is the same all throughout their life. There's some continuity there, right? There's something that remains unchanged, right? Our whole body, for the record, from like, I don't know how much the refresh rate is, but your body replaces cells at a steady rate. So that means from like, 6 to maybe 20 or something like that, you are literally, like biologically, you are a completely different person, right? If you develop new beliefs about something, that's a type of change as well. Like as far as the beliefs I held when I was a child, they are very like night and day different than what I hold today. The way I see the world, at least, very, very different. Point being, I think there is this type of difference that happens. I think he's right. There is fluctuations, obviously, but there's also has to be this type of commonality. At least we certainly treat each other as though there is some commonality. If I commit some sort of crime 30 years ago and the statute of limitations hasn't run out, I would still be held accountable for that. I would still be tried for that. Even though literally on a biological level I'm a different person, I might be a different person psychologically, you're still, quote unquote, the same person that committed that on some level, right?
In a particular configuration. Mind is a configuration, not an object. It's an arrangement. Certain thoughts, certain emotions. Disciplining is what we need to do. It is not what we need to get. And how do you do discipline? Well, that we sort of know, right? When you are sitting there and your mind is telling you, oh my God, I have a paper that makes up a big part of my grade. I need to be doing it. And then the mind has an impulse. What is the verb? What is it that you do in response to the impulse? You give in to it. You get up and you walk around. It is the way that you respond to your thoughts that is the disciplining or the not disciplining. So on a given day, are you going to do the discipline or not? What does doing the discipline mean?
Is this showing up in your screen too? There's just some like weird pixels that are going goofy. Maybe it's something with the video itself.
It means sitting there and noticing that my mind wants to do this and my mind wants to do this. Then I'm going to do the discipline. I'm disciplining. I'm going to take that thought and I'm going to say no, and I'm going to do this. Now you will say, but Dr. K, that is hard. Yes, it is. Just like any other verb. Playing the violin is hard until you learn how to do it. The first time you play a violin, not going to be easy. And here's the problem. When we scroll for 8 hours a day, what are we actually doing? We are decaying our disciplining capability. We're becoming rusty. So this is something that's really scary about the development of discipline, how easy it is to lose. So most of the time when we talk about skills acquisition persists for a long period of time, right? So if I learn how to play the violin, even 10 years later.
No, the idea is you never forget how to ride a bike, but maybe that's not entirely correct. At least you can get a lot worse at perhaps riding a bike.
If I really learn it, it'll stick around for a while. Here's the scary thing. I want y'all to think about the time scale that disciplining happens. So within one day, if I'm not disciplining myself, how many rounds of discipline am I giving up? Like 1,000, 2,000. I want to do this. I give into this. I have this thought. I ignore it. I'm going to keep watching. One more episode. I feel like eating Cheetos. I feel like eating popcorn. Let me order pizza. We can decay.
Well, I think you'd actually see this present in like drug addicts as well. They can be fine for like years and years. They can be sober for years and years at a time, and like they'll say like effectively, you get back into it, it's all it's all there again. And it's actually probably worse. Like they will go further into that if they give in to whatever they're doing, if they don't maintain that level of discipline. Like, it is sustainable, but you let it slip. It's, yeah. Let him that he, there's a verse in the Bible, let him that thinketh he stands take heed lest he fall. It's that feeling of safety, I think, that sometimes is the glitch.
Are disciplined so quickly by not disciplining ourselves. You can work out for 6 months, you're doing great, you fall off the wagon once, and then you stop disciplining yourself. And why does that happen? Why is it, have you guys noticed everyone's like, oh my God, I have trouble getting started? What we don't talk about enough is how many human beings on the planet are good at doing something, not just for a couple of weeks, but for a couple of months, and then they lose it. I was working out for 6 months. It wasn't just like a weekend. I was being pretty consistent. I was going to therapy. For a couple months there, I really was practicing and learning the violin. Then what happened? That's the right question. What happened? What was the verb? What happened is that for those 6 months, you were disciplining yourself. The verb, the cognitive action that you took in response to an impulse changed. And then you stopped taking those cognitive actions. And once you stop taking those cognitive actions, once you stop disciplining yourself, it's like, oh my God, I was gardening for 6 months and my garden was beautiful. And then I stopped gardening. And then what happened? The garden is now overrun with weeds. Why don't we say it like this? Why don't we explain it like this? Because this sounds effing exhausting. But what y'all need to understand about life, there's this idea, I sometimes hate these ideas like FIRE. Like, I'm not against the concept, but there's something about it. So FIRE is financial independence and retire early. So most human beings on the planet want to be done. I want to be finished. I want to retire. I want everything to be done, and then I want freedom.
So it's like, I feel like the worst thing in the world is to surrender your ability to be useful. Because I feel like, to me, like, that's one of the most compelling things, like to be useful to other people as much as you can. As much as it lies within you, to be as useful as you can for as long as you can. Like, and this is one of the things I think there's actually statistics that would show this, that older people, once they tend to retire, like their health only really goes downhill from there. And there's this type of zest for life, I think, is lost in that.
Ahead of me. As long as you are locked into this idea of being done, it will be very hard to progress.
I tried everything, coffee, Pomodoro, and binaural beats, but nothing stuck.
Now, there's a lot of people who love this idea, and it gives them the motivation and discipline to move towards a financial goal. And I think, like, it's cool. Like, by all means, go for it. But I want y'all to be careful about this idea of, I want to be done with the garden. I want you to understand that you as a biological organism are in homeostasis or in equilibrium, that every day you need to eat. Every few seconds, you need to breathe. Every day, you need to take a piss. There's no being done with food. There's no being done with breathing. You are a living, breathing biological organism that requires investment to stay still. You are fighting against the force of entropy. This is what it means to be alive. A rock does not fight against the force of entropy the way that something with a cell membrane and a cell wall and mitochondria do. To be alive is to act constantly. This is your lot in life.
All right. That's a good way to end it. We'll let him have the last word. All right. Good video. You can check that out if you want to see the rest of it. You do not know what discipline means by Healthy Gamers / Dr. K. All right. You know what? I think we're going to skip the Polyphemus thing for today. To be fair, I started actually early, but my stuff was glitchy and like a numpty. I didn't check the stream to see if everything was working, so I ended up doing an entire stream without sound. So the if you want to watch the game part of it, I'll put it on, but there won't be any me talking. So watch at your own peril. I know you won't enjoy it as much without my dulcet tones ringing in your ear, but you can have fun with it if you like.